You're listening to Triple T's Tigertown Talks, delivering real stories hosted by real Tigers with real conversations. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Triple T's Tigertown Talks. I'm Avery Hodges.
I'm Anna Kate Campbell.
I'm Hadley Perriman.
And I'm
I'm
Megan
Connor
Couch.
Holmes.
Oh, sorry.
You're good,
And
Megan.
I'm
I'm
Megan
Connor
Couch.
Holmes.
Oh, I keep interrupting you. And I'm Megan Couch. Welcome back to our fourth and final episode.
All right, so today we have two very special guests joining us from Mad Dog Sports Radio on SiriusXM. So let's welcome Louie Gold and Mike Babchik.
Hey, are you guys
Yay.
hearing me now?
Thank you.
Yes, we can hear you
Yes, we
now.
got it.
Yay.
Nice. Awesome. See,
There we
All
go.
right.
I'm worth something.
So Louis is an executive producer and contributor with an incredible background in sports media. He began his career at ESPN New York, where he produced pregame and postgame coverage for teams such as the New York Knicks, New York Rangers, and New York Jets, as well as local college basketball games. During his time there, he also helped launch and produce shows for some of the biggest names in sports media, including Stephen A. Smith, Max Kellerman, and Braden Tierney. Is that how you say it? I think so.
Brandon Tierney, BT.
Brandon Tierney, yes. He later moved on to SiriusXM, where he served as senior producer for a morning programming on SiriusXM and NFL Radio, working across multiple shows and even traveling the country for NFL Super Bowls, giving him front row seats to some of the biggest moments in sports. And then also joining us is Mike Babchik, also known as Babs. Mike started his career producing local projects in his hometown before eventually working at ABC News in New York, where he and Louis first met. Mike later moved to SiriusXM, producing shows for both SiriusXM NFL Radio and Mad Dog Sports Radio. While he was a fantastic producer, his real strength quickly became clear when he got behind the microphone. Mike began creating segments, doing man on the street interviews, and bringing his personality into the shows that he worked on. Which eventually led him to becoming a full-time host, including his show Morning Men, which has since built a huge and loyal fan base. So after 20 years of friendship, Louie and Babs now work together on the morning show for Mad Dog Sports Radio called DA and Babs, which has become one of the top 10 national sports talk shows. So, Louie and Babs, thank you so much for joining us.
It's
Was
a
all
pleasure
that
to be here.
information
Thanks for
correct?
having us.
Yes,
Got it
thank
all
y'all
right.
so
I mean,
much.
Babs is an enigma, so. And you can see
Well,
he's
I
got a
don't
face
even.
for radio, too.
Who wrote that I was a fantastic producer? I mean, that's quite wow. Thank you. I've never heard that before. And I appreciate that. But no, that was great. We're both very happy to be here, and you can see me and Louie go way back,
Oh,
way
yeah.
back.
Too far.
So that's what
Too
this
far.
business really is all about. In radio, and maybe in all media, it always feels like it's such a big world, but once you enter it, it's quite a small one. So it's cool to be here with my buddy Lou.
Yeah.
Well, thank y'all so much for coming on. We all really appreciate it. How did y'all both get started in like the sports media world, and what ultimately led you to working together on Mad Dog Sports Radio?
You want to go first,
Wow.
Babs?
No, yeah, for me it was simple. I was in college. I went to University of Albany. That's in New York, and the frat. I was actually in two frats. We don't need to get into the details why. One threw me out and down a flight of stairs. But what I found was that most of the people in the frat were in this communication major. So I was like, wow. And then in high school, actually, I should go back. I was doing very poorly in English, which is a tough language, that English. That is not easy. And so I was doing so poorly, but I had a teacher who actually liked me, even though I was a huge troublemaker. And he's like, look, you're going to fail English, and let's try to save you. And he hooked me up with a local internship at a radio station. And so I realized, wow, this is great. You could do your entire career sitting down. So I was very into that. And I found it pretty easy to talk. And then I was like, wow, this is a cool thing. But then I, going to college, I never thought anything of it. I didn't really think I'd ever be in radio. But then most of the people in this frat, communications. Towards the end of my fifth or sixth year, I was a 6-year senior. That's right. I was that guy. But towards the end, I needed a way to graduate, and one of the guys was like, "Hey, why don't you go to the radio station?" I was like, "Oh my God, that's right." When I think about that, that's what saved me in high school. That ended up saving me in college, and then I got an internship at WFAN. That's a big time sports radio station in New York. And then from there, I realized, wow, if we're going to do this thing, you got to start behind the scenes, which means you're not going to make a lot of cash. So you're going to have multiple gigs. And that's when I decided to continue to work not only for WFAN, but a few other stations in New York. And one of them was WABC, which was connected at the time with 1050 ESPN. And that's really when I started to get a feel for sports. And I realized, wow, there's a bunch of lunatics that work in sports radio, including Lou. And so I was like, this is perfect for me. Let me get away from the news, even though there's a lot of people who are nuts on the news side of things too. And then from there, meet a couple people, work a couple shows, work a couple different stations. Next thing you know, Sirius XM was just starting satellite radio. I jumped over there and I realized they're even crazier here on satellite. You can really be yourself. And then, yeah, just from being a producer and hijacking many radio shows, jumping on the mic, I realized, you know what, I might just be good enough to do this without the extra work. Producer, it's a lot of work. Lou does a lot more work than me. I mean, he does a lot of work, but I'm just
And
more
that's where I met
relaxed.
you, though. I met you when I was at 1050. He was at
Yeah,
WABC. And, when you first start, you're working the night shift. You're working the weekend shifts. You're working all sorts of, you're putting in 90, 100-hour weeks, only getting
right.
paid for 30, but you're working all these hours. And I would be there at night and I would see Babs wandering the hallways. You never knew what state he would be in, but you meet so many different interesting characters on radio. And that's where really all the creative people are. So, one thing led to another. And then for me, when I was younger, I used to make, you guys probably don't even know what tape cassettes are, but I used to record things on tape cassettes in the 90s. I always wanted to be in radio. And I kind of just fell out of it when I graduated college. I moved away. I was living in Colorado for like a year. And a buddy of mine was working at ESPN. He called me. He's like, you want to come be an intern on the Michael K show? Which was in New York. I went to ESPN, did that, and then from there, I just fell into a job with Max Kellerman, Stephen A. Smith, and then I ended up at Sirius XM, and now here I am working with Michael Babchik. But yeah, get used to if you want to get in this business, you better get used to, working there's no time off. You're working holidays, you're working nights, you're working weekends, so be prepared
Yeah.
for all of that.
Yep. And you guys are at least podcast scene, which is good because obviously, that's a big part of this media business now that we're in.
Now,
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt, which is great because back when me and Louie were like, starting up, you do a couple of shows, do a couple demos, you have to get on the air. And now it's like me and Lou, if we go back to the days of when with all of our ideas, we would have just went straight to the internet, went straight to a podcast. And so you guys are in good shape because you're already starting early.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
something our teacher was
Oh,
like
I was about to
super
say that's like
into.
our teacher.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
like we don't have like test or quizzes anymore. He's just like let's
Right.
start building your portfolio now. So
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I know now, like, I'm currently applying for jobs in media, and they're all like, utilize your social media platform. Like, what does your social media platform look like? Are you posting on there? Are you posting on there? You don't just need a demo reel anymore. You need you
Yes.
need to utilize your social media platforms now too, which is just insane. Because like even just 3 years ago, or I guess 4 years ago when I started college, it was like no one told me that until like my senior year. Now I'm like, oh, I need to utilize social media now.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I would recommend
strange.
doing something every single day too. Don't take a day off. Always, keep yourself active.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Thank you guys again for joining. I wanted to ask, so I know you guys' show is more focused on being like unfiltered, funny, and kind of out of the box. So is that something that was like intentional when you guys started, or do you think it just naturally kind of evolved as you started connecting with your audience?
Oh yeah, I think Lou's, this is why creatively we're linked, and we're radio soulmates. I think both of us, there's some hardcore sports talk radio out there. That's never anything I really wanted to do. I like the idea of being the guy in the bar, and you're talking to your friends, you're talking to anybody out there, and sports really does bring people together. But you have to be like a sports expert to do it. So well, we both fell in love with like morning radio, especially, the show we're in now, because you could really just talk about anything, pop culture, anything that pops up in sports. It's just a great conversation starter, but it could take you so many different places, and then you get loose, and then, you get a bit crazy. That's the part of radio that some people forget. Sports talk is interesting, of course, but it's entertainment. And I think me and Louie both on the same page that it's entertainment first, and then everything else comes next.
Yeah, so I was on
But
NFL radio for so long, and there's only so much you can do there. It's such niche programming. It's like it's all NFL, hardcore X's and O's. You can try to be creative, but there's only so far you can go. So I really needed to make a move over to Mad Dog. And when I got that opportunity to work with Mike, it was a no-brainer for me because you can actually create your own topics rather than just this is going on in sports is what we're going to talk about. Like for instance, you have the NCAA tournament going on right now. So
Hmm.
it's like what's a unique way that we can talk about it? We were just on the phone, Mike and I, before we hopped on here talking about tomorrow's show. And we're talking about, we were looking up celebrities that went to each college and trying to break down the Sweet 16 based on the number one in our mind celebrity that went to each school. And that's how we're going to do our bracket tomorrow and come up with a national champion. And I can tell you right now, it's not going to be Arizona. It's not going to be Michigan. I don't want to reveal the answer, but like those are the type of things we want to do. What's going to be different? And we want to make sure that we're including the audience. We want them to be able to have a voice
yeah,
and a say in what we're talking about in the air as well. I think that's very important.
yep,
I'm definitely interested to listen to you guys tomorrow to see what your pick was.
right, yeah. I did. That's the great part of what our shows. There's interactiveness that you don't have in a podcast,
Mhm.
and obviously everybody's going towards the podcast, but then that's really guest heavy and conversation while we are immediately talking to the people, so we know immediately what's good and what's bad. If we're talking about something that's really spikes some interest, next thing you know, you got 9 lines and you got callers coming in, and sometimes you're hitting on something that you think is interesting, and then the lines don't light up. So it's a
All right.
totally different type of strategy, and it's different than podcasts. And podcasts is great too, but what we have is the best of both worlds. We could, talk amongst ourselves, have some great guests, be entertaining, and almost immediately know what hit, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure.
One thing that we talked about in class was like this caller from, I think it was Buffalo, and he like called into this radio station, and it was like one of the first like radio talk shows, and he like calls in and he has a whole argument like with himself on the phone, and then like hangs up, and the two guys that were hosting like didn't say anything. And he like
Ah,
goes through like all of these different stages of it was mostly like kind of like the stages of grief because his team wasn't doing well that season. So he kind of goes through
right,
like
right.
every stage of grief, like on the phone with them for like a few minutes, and then he's like, "Okay, I'm done now," and he like hangs up and goes back to it. Do you have any funny stories, kind of like that, about callers on the air?
A bad call is usually the best call.
Yeah,
You
Okay.
like those bad calls, those crazy calls. And that guy sounds just like me. I'm arguing with myself every single day.
right.
Am I not, Babs? I'm
That's
always
true.
arguing
That
with
is
myself.
true. That is true. Lou will bring up a topic, and as he's defending, and he's also against it by the end of the sentence. So, I mean, no, that's fantastic. No, we had a caller. What was the one the other day, Lou, that we were making fun of? Where
Who, Mac and Bear?
no, 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 it was the guy had. Oh, he wanted us to rank. What do you want us to rank? QB rooms or. You always get a bad call. Like today, we had a call. Somebody was like, what's bothering me about the NCAA tournament? The courts. They don't tell
Oh
you
yeah,
where they're
QB
from,
out
the
of nowhere.
logos. I mean, it's just that's what's bothering you.
Oh yeah, no
Not the
joke.
fact that I've lost hundreds of dollars on this tournament already. Wouldn't that be more of a focus, or that your team lost? But no, they were more
There's
concerned
zero
about.
perfect brackets left.
Yes, they were more concerned about the graphics. So no, when you get a bad call, that's some of the best. Like we,
It's glorious. You make fun of them, and you don't
yeah.
have to worry about making fun of them to their face.
Yeah, I
You
know.
say,
Then you
"Oh,
hang up on them. It's even better. So no, I think one of the best calls we ever had was somebody was calling up and then didn't realize he was on the phone still. And he was like ordering lunch, and like that was amazing. So you went back and forth on a meatball parm, and see sometimes the if you know how to handle it, then the worst ones are the best ones. I
That
make fun.
actually that leads into a little bit. I was gonna ask y'all, what is it like when you're working together constantly? And a lot of these sports shows, you hear about like famous beefs almost with these co-hosts. They're working together every day. They're debating. They're talking to each other. How do you two keep up that chemistry with being friends for so long, and then you're kind of dealing with each other every day in a work environment?
Well, you didn't hear our conversation at 9 a.m. this morning.
Yeah, exactly. It's like every day you break up and then get back together. It's constantly. That's constant.
Yeah.
So
You
the
have to
sun
have
goes
thick
back
skin.
up. Yeah, you do. And you have to always focus on tomorrow because like, we're doing 5 days a week. And so yeah, we could get after it and we could scream and yell at each other and think we're wrong, but then, you got to come together at some point and be like, so what are we doing tomorrow? Because you really just start all over again. That almost keeps, all the drama at bay. But yes, there's people that have been together for years and years where egos get in the way. It's way better to laugh at yourself and never care about being so right and, dropping that stuff at the door because it's just never going to work. So, yeah, me and Louie, I mean, I could read you Louie's text messages if you'd like,
Please
but
don't.
then it
Please
would become an
don't.
X-rated podcast. So maybe we shouldn't.
I was
A
ashamed
lot of
this morning. I
language.
was very ashamed of the show this morning. Very ashamed.
Very ashamed.
Oh
Very ashamed.
no.
Very ashamed.
Yeah,
I should be
it's-
ashamed. You're ashamed. Everyone's ashamed. And so, but then, really, it's,
no, but
we're in this together. We know that. We know that. If you're not on the same page, you're not going to succeed. And so if you're going to have a fight like this on radio, you have it on air because then it's some of the best content you could actually have.
there are times you have to get it all out, though. You can't. It's
Yeah.
better to get it out than hold it in. You need to be able to
No
communicate
doubt.
with each other.
Yep.
That's key.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Good.
And when you were talking about tomorrow, see, we were talking, Louis, you mentioned a little bit about March Madness and everything like that, and how y'all are approaching it. I know the month of March it is kind of crazy. There's just so many games, and like obviously for us, I'm from the Clemson area. It's ACC basketball. There's North Carolina got upset. Now we got Duke playing St. John's in the Sweet 16. Y'all have the New York. Is there any storylines this year that have particularly drawn you in from this March?
Yeah. Oh, I think there's a lot of good storylines. I think, the best
Great.
part about it is like the people that are saying the tournament is kind of dead because there's no like deep Cinderella runs from these mid majors. I think are lost. You just got to change the way you view a Cinderella. I think the storylines of this tournament. I never wanted the upsets to go into the next round. I liked, all right, yeah, so you get like a low major team that comes out of nowhere that you learn a little about on Thursday and they win the game. By Saturday, I've learned enough. And then I kind of want the big boys to sort of take over and battle it out. And I think like this tournament is a perfect example. Like the Cinderellas are actually pretty good teams from pretty great conferences. You got Texas, you got Iowa, those. So maybe you change the definition of it, but this tournament can't be broken. It's the best. We all have a bracket. We're all invested, and we could swoop in, parachute in on a sport, which a lot of people don't watch all year long, and then all of a sudden you're an expert. Now you should pretend to be an expert. The worst is when everyone's like, "Oh yeah, Wisconsin's so good." Really, what's their best player? I don't know. So that's always an issue. You don't want to go too far, but as long as you're being real with it, what's better than having a tournament that is back, just nonstop action for 3 weeks, and I didn't have to put in all like the research and work of a regular season. To me, that's pretty awesome. So I do love March.
Yeah, and while Babs focuses on the games, I saw there was a kid from Miami who went to the concession stands in a full uniform to order
Yeah,
like
right.
a chicken sandwich. I mean, to me,
Yeah.
that's an amazing topic. First of all, why is he in a full uniform going to get some concessions? And why is the player the one going to get himself food? And they just lost. Shouldn't you be pissed off and in the locker room crying or something? Why are you out there getting
Right.
food?
I want to see you have to pay for it. I mean, nobody else pays for these little
That's
deals.
another great
I know
point.
it's NIL now, but where does he keep his wallet in the uniform? What's going on here?
Yeah, and you know what else? He left the uniform on, but he changed his sneakers. He was wearing like Crocs or something. Just
That
take
was,
the it's weird.
that was strange.
I
That
love
was
this
strange.
storyline. I think it's a great storyline.
Yeah, no, it's a good one.
Tomorrow,
No doubt.
8 a.m.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right, good.
My
It's
dad
good
and I were talking about that story also with the Miami kid because my dad grew up Florida State fan. So we grew up hating Miami. We hate Miami. No one goes. My brother's talking about wanting to go to Miami,
You
and my
should.
dad's like, "Well, you're gonna have to pay for it because I'm not paying for Miami or whatever." And
Yeah.
so we were talking about that, and he was like, I have a little bit more respect. Like that's a good move by that guy. Like out of all of the preppy food that he could have eaten like when he got back to campus or whatever, he chose to go get a chicken sandwich the concession stand.
and stood in line like a normal human being. He had a terrible game though, so as far as I'm concerned, I'm done with that guy.
That's the other story.
Yeah.
Yeah. He should be allowed to eat.
Yeah, I was trying to say, what is he doing at the concession stand?
Right.
One of the girls in my class, she's on our d dance team here at Clemson, and so they traveled with the men's basketball team, and they are like watching everything that they eat. And Hadley, you might be able to speak into this a little bit too, but they were like on the plane, and the guys were told that they could only order like get water from like the flight attendants, and all of the like dancers are over here like drinking their soda, and all of the guys are like, "Can I have a sip of your soda? Like, please!" Like, they won't let us eat like drink
Yeah.
soda like before our game, stuff like that, which I just think is so funny and like something that you don't ever hear about, and it's like very not publicized for whatever reason.
Well, Babs gives his kids soda, 5 years old, so that's their diet.
Yep.
Soda and French
Yep.
fries and ice
But
cream.
it's diet. It's
Hey,
diet. All right. So make sure-
Healthy. It's healthy.
I let
Exactly.
my 9-month-old nephew drink my Dr. Pepper. He wants it. I'm gonna give it to him. He gets what he wants. I'm spoiling him.
They're so
Yo, you're gonna have
happy.
to watch him after.
They're
Yeah, but
so
they're
happy.
Don't you want to make them happy? They love it.
Exactly.
The bubbles and
Exactly.
everything. So,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, my kid's teeth are already rotting, but besides that, he's happy. Like, he's
Yeah.
got a terrible smile, but you know, he's got no teeth. But no, he's
Hey, they'll fall out, their baby teeth.
yeah,
It'll
they
be
fall out
okay.
anyway. I think they'll be fine.
And now my daughter's in college, so I'm getting calls about how drunk she is. So, it's not soda, it's beer and alcohol. So real worries, Babs.
True, exactly. I guess it could be worse. Yeah.
Okay, so we kind of talked about just how you guys have come up with interesting topics. And I think that's something that our professor really said is how to kind of stick away from the narrative. We want to highlight, Mike, about your most interesting mascots. And we thought that was one of the funniest stories ever. So how did you kind of come up with that idea? And what was kind of like, how did you evaluate which mascot and how did you kind of rank that criteria about them?
Yeah, look, me and Louie, like anything, when we sit down, we put our heads together, we're going to figure it out. And, the idea came about to do the weirdest mascots, the strangest mascots. And, I think we just picked the ones that are so odd, like the St. Louis mascot isn't even real. So where did they come up with the Billiken? I don't know. Some guy got high and clearly just, wrote it out for a cartoon. Or, it's like Lou found the Akron kangaroo. Why is there a kangaroo in Ohio? It's like a very strange group. Mascots are always fun, but the weirder they are, the stranger they are, the better. So that's why, we just decided to, find a list. We got Joe Vandal, which, I think we ended the video with like, yeah, I could do that. That I feel like that mascot was built for me. Considering I was arrested 4 different times. That's a brag. It's basically how I brag about that. But yeah, that's all these mascots are so different and odd. I mean, that's kind of like the story of March too. Like you get to learn about all these schools in such a fun, entertaining way. But me and Louie are always working on, and Louie's the best at just figuring out like a funny top 5 to like, grab your attention. That's really what it is too. Find something that is so interesting. Like we have a guy at Sirius who does the straight, like, here's my top 5 teams to win. I said, we don't want to do that. We either go like the top 5 teams to lose, we go completely negative, or we go someplace in an entertaining way. Just, the balance of sports. Sports should be about fun instead of being so serious X's and O's.
Yeah. Do you guys have, from this season of March Madness, have you guys found like a new favorite mascot, or what has been like your favorite mascot that you've seen so far?
You should say a Clemson Tiger. That's the right
Clemson will never come out of my mouth.
answer.
I mean,
He's a Miami guy. I like Clemson. Clemson. There was a guy who went to Clemson who was a huge fan and sent me a Clemson shirt. I sure wore that today. I have that somewhere in my closet. But that was really more
It's
about
those free t-shirts, isn't
it
it?
was more about the football team. But Lou, is there any?
I mean, I
team you
like this
fell in love
Purdue
with?
guy. You hated this Purdue guy, right? I kind of
like
like
the-
looking at this guy
I like
now.
them.
This
Yeah,
big guy.
Purdue-
You know, it's the smallest guy ever in that costume too. It's
For
like
new
the
Pete.
wimpiest guy inside there. You know, he gets to live out his dream being this tough guy with a hammer. And what's the hammer for? Do
I don't know.
Boilermakers really need hammers? I don't even know.
I don't know. I don't know what is the Boilermaker?
I have no, I assume they make boilers. I don't know.
Right, right.
They worked on the train. I have
They're
no
good
idea.
drink. Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know.
I I have one more question I want to ask. The media world, I think a lot of people don't understand is really it's just a lot more than just getting on a microphone and talking or like presenting yourself in a certain way. It is very fast paced, and I think a lot of people there's like these narratives like on social media that like someone is doing like everything for you, and all you have to do is just get on a microphone and talk or whatever. Um, can y'all just kind of talk about like the behind the scenes process and like how like important, if that is the most important part of it, and how that is just so fast paced and what that looks like.
Yeah, I mean, we talk every night. Babs and I are on the phone for, I mean, like at least an hour talking about the show, texting back and forth our ideas, and then we kind of flush out the show. I have a sheet. I don't want to call it a hardcore. It's like a guideline of where we're going to go each segment. I have a stat sheet, I have the audio. We know exactly where we're going to go. We kind of flush out our topics to a certain degree. We don't want to get it all out off. We don't want the best stuff to come out off the air. The best stuff has to be on the air. We'll take a conversation to a certain point. When we get there, it's like, okay, that's where we're taking the conversation. So we know where we're going to go on the air. We just don't know exactly what we're going to say just yet. It's very important to have to not sound scripted. There are some guys that like to write out their opening monologue and they like to write out, a few segments. I don't think that that's good. You don't ever want to come across scripted. But it's very important to be prepared before you go on a show. You want to know what direction you're going to. You want to have all your ducks in a row. You want to know where the show is going to be guided. It's my job to keep these guys. Hey, if I think that they're doing something for too long, hey, let's move on to this, or send them a little reminder. Hey guys, you didn't get this. Let's make sure we're mentioning this here. Reset this topic here. So, yeah, I mean that's a great question. I agree with you about the not being scripted. You want to definitely, and there's also a lot of it. A lot of the show is before and after, right? Especially
Yeah.
now with social media, like the show doesn't end at 9 a.m. The show's not over. You're doing your show all day. You can post videos on social media. You're doing stuff online all the time. You're creating content for the next show after the show. So that 6 to 9 might be the live segment, but the show does not end there. And also being on Sirius. Um, People have the ability to listen in different ways now. You can rewind, you can pause. So it's an interesting world to live in right now for us.
Yep, yep. I think Lou nailed it. You got to be prepped, but you don't want to be scripted. You like some of the best stuff is what you're reacting to. You need to know the facts
Yeah.
about that. It just, sometimes I don't even like to think about my opinion until it actually happens live. And sometimes, that could backfire, but it's a reactionary world. It's a reactionary show. And especially if you have like a multiple person show that like we're working on, there should be nothing that comes across, forced or you're just getting it in because you wrote it down the night before. Feel free to scrap. We could come up with 30 ideas for tomorrow, and we might only get to three of them. And that's okay. That means it
Easily.
could still be a great show. It's just because you just never know where you're going to go. But you do want to be as authentic and real as possible. All right. You don't want to come across phony in this business anymore. And I think this media business used to be all about that and just all about being buttoned up and not yourself. And if you're doing a podcast, there's nothing you could hide. You have to be your true, real self. But like the authenticity that you could show, and that's a big word for me. When you could show that, I think people see that and they go, wow, they're like drawn to it. That's more endearing. And they're going to want to follow you along your, adventure of life.
What role would y'all say that like social media plays in like number one, showcasing your personality so that people want to listen to the show and think that y'all are funny and fun, but also in promotion and like you both have families and also protecting your families in that.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
we don't protect our families at all. Yeah.
I think the best
Anything
stuff
goes
is,
for us.
yeah, you gotta be relatable, right? So, we kind of have an idea of our audience. It's like, it could be as young as like 20 and then you're like going to like, maybe 50. that's pretty much where we skew. So like we're talking to a lot of like young dads or just, people are just starting off, with life and they just got married or they just and when you complain about your life a lot, all of a sudden people are like, that's me too. You complain about your wife eating a bag of chips in bed. People love that. Oh my God. They're like, well, that's exactly what's going on here. Or you complain about your kids. One thing we don't do, me and Lou, you don't brag though. Like, when your kid does something good, you keep that to yourself. But when your kid like strikes out 39 times in a row in a T-ball game, they don't stop, and which is poor kid, that's something you highlight. Like one of the big
You
stories
bragged.
is like,
You bragged the other day because your son hit like 2 out of like 23
no,
pointers. You thought that was a really big deal.
yeah, no, I did one where it was like my son made the baseball team, but on the same day he lost his glove. You see, so there's a balance there. You got to have a balance. But though the best stories are the ones where people laugh at because you realize, like when somebody listens to the show and they go, "Wow, that's exactly what's happening in my life right now." Like that's when you're like, "Oh man, you really hit on something." And you could only do that if you're telling the stories of failure as opposed to the ones of success.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. And social media is great because you're posting like a 1 minute clip, which really it piques people's interest, right? And it's like, God, I have to
Yeah.
hear more of this. It's key to everything, actually.
Yep.
It's the ultimate promo for your show.
No doubt.
Are y'all more focused on growing your social media, like followers and platform, or more of your listeners, like on there?
Man, that's something you really try to
It's
find a
good.
balance for.
Hmm.
But really, social media is really almost the end all be all. That's like what almost everything is graded on nowadays. I feel like that's how so many people get, um, where they get everything from social media. Those clips are everything. People they don't want to listen for 2 or 3 hours. Like when we first got into radio, that's how everything was judged. Hey, a huge block of time. It's not like that anymore. People are listening for such
Right.
short increments of time that social media for me, I think is the most important aspect of everything. And that's where you're going to get people that see your social media clip and say, all right, let me tune into the show. Nobody's going to listen for, an hour or two, but they tune in for a segment and you're doing a great segment. That's incredible.
Yeah. And also, like, this the shorter the better. So it's like the
Yep.
exact opposite of what we're doing when you're building, a listenership that like, comes in every single day. When you think about it, we're on for 3 hours with no net. And then social media, it's like you want to try to put out a clip of that and you're thinking, let's get it to like 2 minutes. No, you should be like 30 seconds, maybe even less to build some of these things. So, and then like it really is interesting, like where you find your listeners. Like a lot of our listeners were with us at the beginning of, Twitter, now obviously X. And so that's where a big chunk of it is. But really now that's kind of already feeling, too old. So now I'm trying to like rebuild. I have my original
Too old.
Instagram.
I can remember creating MySpace again.
Yeah, yeah, they don't know what that is. But then like Instagram is, it's tough too. I lost my first Instagram account. I'm still trying to, rebound from that. But yes, that is probably judged more. And we're in a company that, metrics is different than like terrestrial
Yeah.
radio. So, you know, but then again, like we could be talking to 30 million people any given day. And so it's really both. You have to build both. But to show people, it's probably more important for your social media growth. So, I mean, you got to get on that and you got to, like Louis said, every single day you're popping in with something for 20 seconds. That's a real organic way to build followers.
I mean, comparatively, I know that the Mad Dog Instagram account has a lot more followers than you two, like personally and separate from that. Do you have hopes to grow your personal accounts and become more of these like social media personalities apart from Mad Dog, or do you just love working and want to continue on the Mad Dog path, like come for the future?
Yeah, I
Focus
mean,
more for Babs. I think it's more important for Babs uh, in terms of the Instagram. I think that we're going to try to grow his separately from Mad Dog because I think that's important to have your own. You need your own space. So that's the next state. That's the next step with us and Babs. Not me personally for my Instagram. Mine is more as a producer. It's like that's I'm not really on there that much. Maybe I should post a little bit more. But for Babs,
all right.
that's part of this top five that you guys saw. That we just started doing that. How long ago,
Hmm.
Babs? 2 weeks? 2 weeks ago, maybe?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
three
We're gonna
weeks
pick it
ago.
up,
So
but
that's
That's
Yeah,
like,
so that's something we're
yeah.
doing to try and build the following.
Yeah, I'm doing some stuff with like the indoor football league. It's very interesting. When SiriusXM first started, it was about the channel. And
Yeah.
so we built this channel, from day one. And like I said, my own personal one, I lost one of my accounts. And so it's really tough. If you're not in it from day one, it's hard. And so, a lot of stuff was flooded over to Twitter and X. Then, when you lose your check mark, that we had a check mark for a while. We were kind of flying. Now they don't want to pay for that. And so, there's some other things that are going on. And so you lose that. You really got to focus on both. But at the beginning of SiriusXM, there really was, this isn't that long. We're talking like 10, 15 years. And so that focus was on building this channel, which we definitely did. And now it is time for some personal growth. That's why, you not only do the show, but you do some other projects like the Indoor Football League, which I'll be on all season long. Go find the Indoor
Yeah.
Football League. It's fun. It's fun. Some Clemson. I bet you there's some Clemson players in this league. I'll have to find out which ones.
Yeah.
They're hanging on.
When y'all are talking there kind of about how media has changed, it's really interesting to me because you're speaking about how, which is true, it's like on social media, there's the short form, almost clickbait type of like you want to get them and then get them to draw in. But then
Right.
podcasts now have grown so much. And like me, myself, I've
Yes.
grown up, they've been really popular. I listen to all kinds of different podcasts and they're really long form, like 3.5 hours, 3 hours. But where do you see media going in that way? Because it seems so polar opposite with like a podcast that's 3 hours getting millions of views, but then you need the 1 second clickbait for like an Instagram page.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to find a balance. You have to find the right thing to sort of promote the show. I mean, I love, SiriusXM I love because you're really allowed, you got a lot of freedom. And, you're allowed to talk about it. And I like the idea of like the long form show that people could jump in. And so like that's something I don't think that Sirius is doing. I think everything's right about their future, but you got to find the right clips in that 3 hour show to bring someone back to where they're listening for day after day after day. So it is a balance though. So you just got to find the right stuff. But it's very crazy how you could have a social media career. You could be just as successful as anybody else out there.
Very true.
Do you have any upcoming exciting segments? Like this won't be published until next Wednesday. So anything coming up that we should get excited about that y'all will be talking about or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. We have all sorts of segments. We have a Wednesday draft. Every Wednesday we draft something. I'm not sure what we're going to draft this week yet, but what did we draft last week, Babs? Do you
Ooh,
remember?
that's
I can't
tough.
remember what we did yesterday, but we'll
Yeah.
find something like we'll find a sports topic or like there's all sorts of like national holidays and we'll do drafts off of that or we do a
Yeah.
segment called this or that each week and we'll ask but like it was National Chips and Dip Day. So I'm going to ask what's a better dip, queso dip or taking a dip in the pool? Things like that. And it's a
Right.
fun way to get interaction and have a fun little question between the two hosts and get a debate going and also bring the fans in because fans love stuff like that, this or that type of question or would
Oh
you
yeah.
rather type of thing.
Yeah. An A or a B. Like people love jumping in like we did best soups. Everybody was all
Oh yeah,
jumping in
best
about
soup.
soup. Oh my God. So they were all
French
fired up
onion.
over that. And what consists of a soup? And if is it like somebody was like a beef stew? Well, that's a stew. You could use a fork.
Yeah, but
So
a
it's got to
stew
have
is
a
also a
Cereal?
form of a soup though.
Well, there you go. So then you got to use a spoon. Then of
That
course,
somebody brought
someone
that
calls up, it's
up.
like, what about cereal? That's a cold soup. And then next thing you know, it's like the show's over. We just did 3 hours on soup. That's the kind of stuff that we're like, you could plan all this if something takes off and people just want to jump in, especially about food. People love ranking food, talking about food. And they want to talk about their lives and their marriages and stuff, but that's a big thing too. So that's why it's a good show because you can
Yeah,
really go in
well,
a direction.
it's the best. It's a good show because you never know what Babs is going to say next. You never know where the show might lead. So
Yeah.
I think that is the best part about the show. So as
Yeah.
prepared as we are and buttoned up here, some of the best stuff just happens on the fly. It's you
Yeah.
you
The
just never
issue
know what's going
is
to come out of this guy's mouth.
Right, but see, the problem is I don't know either. So that's the issue. It's like, next thing you know, you just say something like, why? Why did I don't know why. But then you got Lou to like jump on the mic and set me straight. So no, that's exactly what it's about. It's about just it's entertainment though, first and foremost. I mean, someone's gonna listen, they're going to be entertained. And whatever you're talking about, you gotta make it the best because someone could be listening for, 5, 6 minutes. And so whatever that topic is, you make that as entertaining as possible. That could be a debate on sports, or that could be talking soup, or you making fun of Louie. So it really doesn't matter
Right.
what it is, but it has to be top notch all the time because somebody's listening for the very first time. You want to keep that person to come back and want more.
So sports radio is kind of a loose term around this show.
Yeah, we're
Yes.
what are we? Sports adjacent? I don't know what you want to call
Yeah,
us.
but
We use sports as a jump off to get into all sorts of other topics. So we'll find
Mhm.
like I said, like the Sweet 16 is a perfect example. Yeah, we'll talk about the Sweet 16, but we're
right.
going to turn it into something interesting, whether it's celebrities or, corn in Iowa, versus corn in Nebraska,
Or
something.
ranking
There's so many places you
princesses,
can take it. Oh,
Yeah,
ranking
we did that,
princesses.
with
Yes,
the
like
Cinderella.
Cinderella.
Not the best
Cinderella's not even the
princess.
best princess.
Right.
I mean, she's not even a top five princess,
Right.
actually.
Yeah. But
Am I
sports is
wrong?
great. Yeah, no, but no, you're not wrong. Right?
No.
Thank
Jasmine.
you.
Uh,
Jasmine
no,
is
but
the number one. Ariel is
hold on.
probably
Yeah, I
number
think
two.
so. I think you're right about that. But I mean, I think just sports brings everyone together. It's something like, I tell my kids, like, when they're out social wise, it's a great uniter. If you don't know what to talk about, you talk about, hey, you see the game last night? That's way better than how about the weather? So like sports brings people together, and then you can talk about whatever you want.
Mhm.
But that's really what. So I think this is sports talk. This is what we're doing, and it's not like it's brand new to the scene. We've been doing it this way for a while. The morning allows you even more, like a little looseness because it's the morning, it can be zanier. But it's really just about bringing people together. Just talk about the stuff that everyone's talking about. And a lot of times, it really is what happened the night before. It really is about that game. But then there's so much else to talk about as well. And that's what it's all about. Nice, good old topic
Yeah,
tree.
especially for us because we're on so early in the morning, so we go on at 6
Mhm.
a.m. So
Yep,
we a
Mhm.
lot of things happen when we're sleeping. So we wake up in the
yep.
morning and there's so much fresh news to get into. So you never know where the show might take. You might have a whole show planned out when you go to bed, and it completely changes when you wake up in the morning.
Yeah. Also, you can't cheat that way. We're the first ones to go. So people listen to us and get all their topics and maybe do them better. But we don't have that liberty. We
But
don't
they
have
take
that.
our topics, though.
They
They
take our
take them.
topics. They do them better. They do it. They do it better. But we're the first one. So some of these
Yeah.
later shows in the day, or even a podcast. I mean, you could record whatever you want, and so
Mhm.
that's great because then you could see exactly what already hit. We don't know. We're so, we're
Mhm.
kind of in the we're just throwing it out there and seeing what sticks. And sometimes you get some great topics that way, and sometimes you don't.
So I have a question. So you guys have the morning show. So what is like a typical like day in your guys' life for like going into the studio, producing, or like what can you kind of just give us like a little in-depth of like what you guys do on a day-to-day basis?
Lou,
Well,
you want?
yeah, for me, it all starts the night before, obviously, when you're preparing for the next day. So there's a lot of, I mean, it's a 24-hour, 7-day a week job, honestly. You're always thinking about the show no matter what, whether it's texting myself an idea. I just, saw something on TV or I saw some audio somewhere. I'm texting myself and I'm running home, pulling the audio, thinking of what topics can I do off of this. So basically, let's just start in the morning. You get into the studio, you do your 3-hour show, whatever that you prepared the night before. After the show, we tape some podcasts. There's a couple podcasts we also tape, something called PGP, something called Mike Babchik's Morning After, which are Saturday mornings. Then we'll kind of discuss, hey, what was the best moment of the show? What do we want to make a video of? So you're thinking about videos, what we can put on social media. Then we do have a little bit of downtime, where you take some time for yourself. Kind of, Babs is a big napper. He likes to nap and
Yeah,
refuel. I don't
kind
I
of
don't
nap.
like to nap. But
Yeah.
then I go home and I get right to work, honestly, planning out the next day. So, I'll sit in front of the computer for a few hours looking at, topics, looking for audio, looking for all sorts of things that might be interesting to the listener and to the hosts. You want to make sure you're finding topics that your hosts will be interested in and be able to speak about. And then at night, it's getting on the phone with Babs and, whether spending a half an hour or to 2 hours, just going over, hey, here's what we want to do. Here's an idea I have for a segment on baseball. What do you think of this? And then we kind of flush out and try to come up with 2 or 3 topics off of each one. So you never want to have just, hey, the WBC what was going on. Hey, let's just react to the USA, playing Dominican Republic. No, all right, where can we go with this now? All right, we talk about the game,
Yeah.
but now it's like, all right, here, somebody on the Dominican Republic talked about how even though he's American, he's playing for Dominican Republic because of his grandparents, and he's eating all Dominican food. He's eating Dominican food for, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. What can we do with that? So then that turns into, all right, well, if you could play for one of these teams and you have to eat their meals from that country, which country are you choosing? So that's kind of that's what we do to focus on the next day's show. And then I'll send these guys, a show sheet with audio and all sorts of stats that they can look at the night before. And then in the morning we'll briefly discuss it before the show and then get going.
But Lou, I think she just wanted to know if we take a nap and if we're driving in traffic.
I just wanted them to know, well, traffic.
Okay.
Yeah, traffic's a big deal.
Well,
I
in the
never
morning,
get traffic
yeah.
though that early. But yes,
Yeah.
napping's a big deal for it doesn't sound like
Morning.
honestly you need your sleep when you're working as early as we're getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning. You do need to take a nap at some point. It's
3, is that what time you wake up? Wow.
I wake
don't
up at
until
3.
5.
I wake up
All
at 3
right,
every day.
that's
Yeah.
that's pretty good. But it's like, the best things are happening at night, so you can't go to sleep then.
You can.
Yeah.
I'm up until 11 o'clock. I'm
I
waking up
know.
at 3, so.
So you got to split it. You got to
I
split it.
I had a flight this morning back to Clemson my flight was at like 7. So I woke up at like 4. So I don't even know how you guys like I definitely took a nap
Right.
today. I
Yeah.
don't
You
know
No.
how
don't
you
you
guys
do
do
not
it.
you do not get used to it. You don't. You do
Nope.
not get used to
I
it.
was
Was
gonna
it
say
spring
I
break?
took a
Was
nap.
it spring break last week? Is that what was going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was, yeah.
Right.
Nice.
It seems
That's how
like
people
everybody had
all
fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody had a big knot on that one. So that was
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was never a morning guy. I hated. I used to work like overnights early on, but I'd always want to stay out late and I hate the morning, and I still do. But yet I've been doing this show for like 15 years.
Yeah,
So
15
We have
years.
something to wake up for now. Something fun to look forward to in the
yes,
mornings.
you got to do it. You got to do it. So I've never, there hasn't been a lot of shows that I've missed. Very very rarely late. So you just somehow some way you're just jumping out of bed, with the alarm going. Somehow you just get it done. And I think it is like a bit of a pat on the back this morning, guys, that we're always getting in there on time.
I haven't slept until my alarm in years. I'm up at least 5 minutes before that alarm.
Lulu's always, he's got the voices in his head, so they wake him up.
I'm gonna be late. I'm gonna be late.
It's like like when you're sleeping and you hear your alarm and it's like, is that my actual alarm or is that just the alarm in my head? Like that happened to me this morning. I was like, oh, I have to get up and go. But yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have
One
any
of-
more?
Yeah. I feel like I could just end it out. Like we kind of talked like I feel like you guys gave us like a lot of good wisdom about just the career and how to get into it. So I feel like I kind of want to push away from that idea and I kind of just want to ask you guys what's your like as a kid or just anytime your favorite sport moment in your guys'
Oh,
lives
that's
or
easy. That is so
Ooh, that's
easy.
good.
Oh boy,
It's little
you're gonna
league.
go
I
way
was
back.
pitching-
Lou. Get ready.
Yeah, I was. Well, I was gonna talk. Why do you got to do that? Why do you?
Oh, sorry,
I was
man.
playing little league. I was pitching in little league. I told the story the other day. I was pitching in little league, and my father was the coach, and I couldn't throw a strike. I kept throwing balls. I was hitting people. I was throwing balls, and at the time, it was like the first girl that was able to play in our little league with the boys, and she came up to bat, and she was like one of my closest friends, and I hit her in the head. And
Oh,
I told my dad, I said to my father, I'm like, Dad, you gotta take me out of the game. Please, please, I'm begging you, take. And he came out to the mound. He said, No, I'm not taking you out of the game. You're gonna pitch your way through this. I said, Dad, please, you gotta take me out of the game. And he kept me in the game, and I kept walking people and hitting people. And that's my favorite memory of sports. My father yelling at me like that. It set me up for a career in radio. I knew I wouldn't make it on the mound.
I know
That's
that
amazing.
feeling all too well.
Yeah.
Nah, the best
Well,
moment is the '86 Mets. You guys aren't old enough for that.
there it is.
It happened on my birthday.
Yeah. That's interesting. So I'm a Jets fan, so you don't have a
We
lot
don't
of
have a lot of moments. Yeah,
great
we don't have
sports
them.
moments, you know? Like I remember
The
my
Knicks?
first
What
game
about
of
the
my
Knicks?
Yeah, I'm a Knicks fan too. You don't have a lot of those. Now I'm a Yankee fan. I had a lot of great moments in Yankee
Not
World
anymore.
Series. But that was rough. But yeah, I mean some of my best like sports memories are actually horrifically sad. It's
Butt
like
fumble.
Buff. Yes, me and my father leaving the parking lot, my dad crying. It's like these and not out of joy. So yeah, but I don't know. I think like now, I got a couple of kiddies, and you see how much they like how cool sports is to them. You're like, oh man, this really what it's all about.
Yeah.
But you guys are lucky. You got like a great university. It's a big sports feel, and maybe you're off a couple of years, right? Do you guys, maybe the clubs and national championships
It's
a
it's a
little,
little rough. It's a little
maybe it's a
rough.
little rough, a little
A
rough.
little rough.
Maybe you're on the wrong side of that one, but that's awesome. I never had that. When I was in Albany, I don't think I ever went to any games at all. So that wasn't for me. That wasn't,
The
because
Great
but if you're
Danes,
having
the Albany Great Danes.
Great Danes. I used to hang out with one guy. He ended up getting suspended from the team. I think they blame me for it, but no, that's awesome. When you have that big feel of a college campus, that must be amazing. So hopefully you guys turn it around. You have some better sports memories like Lou has.
do
Yeah.
y'all think with us being from, at least me specifically, being from South Carolina, obviously like college sports are kind of king here because it's
Yeah.
just there's not that pro level just around in the city feel. Always when I visit these cities like Chicago, New York, do you think it's the city that kind of got you into that just sports talk mindset? Because there's these different pro teams playing each other, there's huge venues, and it's just I can't imagine that as a child or growing up.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
know what it was for me? Our teams are so bad here. Like one of the greatest things about sports talk radio for me growing up was when your team lost, you tune into the late night radio and you hear your host ranting about how bad the team was and how
Yep.
sucky they are. And that was your venting place. You went there to vent with all your fellow Jets fans or Mets fans. That's what got me into radio, listening to late night radio in the New York area and just complaining about how bad your team is. And you realize you're not the only one suffering and you can suffer together. And I love
Yeah.
that. And listening to callers call in, it gives you great joy. For some reason, it makes you smile. All you can do is smile and laugh about
Definitely.
it.
Definitely. You gotta have passion, right? So, like, when people go like the Philadelphia Eagles and their fans are the worst ever, I always go, really? They're passionate. Now, maybe they should be throwing batteries or, talking about, each other's, moms or something on the field, but they are a very passionate fan base. It's like they won a Super Bowl and the next year they want their coach fired and they're throwing eggs at him. I don't know. That's something I could go, wow, I took the cap. That it matters so much that they're willing to go off. And yeah, just because your team is bad, when you're in one of these big cities in New York and it's a sports city that where it's just like you live and breathe and you die with it, there is something about that is so cool. And yeah, you can laugh too. When you're hearing these people call up who are so angry that their team just lost. There's just like great humor in that as well, to see somebody just completely lose their mind and forget, they're so angry about, regular season loss when in reality, they're struggling to pay their mortgage, their wife, they're about to get their third divorce, but this jet loss, to the Buffalo Bills is just like the be all end
It
all.
never ends.
Yeah, that is something that is so cool. And Lou's right. I listen to a lot of sports radio, but I overnights and at night was I thought the best because then you're getting raw emotion from people who are just so miserable in the moment. And misery in sports is actually a great twosome. I mean, it comes together hand in hand. Very few winners, right? Only one team can win, only lose. So there's a lot of losers. That's like, we're all gonna be losers together.
I don't even know if I want the Jets to win. It's almost like I don't know what I'd do
I'm with you.
if they
I
won.
don't know what I would do. I think I would lose. You are no longer the lovable loser if you go that route.
I'm from Chicago, and I feel like this is like the first season where like the Bears were like really good. So it was just kind of like the first year that like I didn't have to hear my dad or my brother like screaming at the TV about how like bad our team is. Um, and I feel like it's just
Always
this like
next
a
year.
bonding thing, such a bonding thing. But I feel yeah, I'm nervous for next year. We'll see how that
Yeah,
goes.
yeah, that's it.
Um, yeah, I
It's a
feel like
bonding
that was
thing.
our one glory year, but it's
Uh,
okay.
Well, I think that is all we have, unless anyone has anything else. I know Anna has to scoot. Um, but thank you
All right, guys.
both.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
no
Thank
problem.
you. Good luck with
All right.
everything.
Yeah, really appreciate it.
Okay. Well, this was
Yeah, it's
great,
been
though. This is
fun.
cool. You guys keep going at it. You don't stop, and
Yeah.
then you see where the path takes you. But
Yep.
you're already ahead of the game. At least you're
Be
doing a lot better
yourselves.
than me
Always be
for me personally.
yourselves. Always be yourselves.
Okay.
Don't
Be
try to emulate
yourselves,
anybody. Be
no doubt.
yourself. Be confident. And I would recommend, if you can, write a little bit. If you can, write as much as you can, because that's a great way to get to formulate thoughts and get your thoughts out there. Not for anybody. Write for yourself. Just write things down all the time. It's a great way to just it's formulate the things you want to be able to talk about down the line. Keep a journal. That's what I always did.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
most importantly, just be you.
Beautiful.
Thanks so much for that
Thank you
advice
guys
Thank you
and
so
guys so
everything
much.
y'all had to
much.
share.
All
Be
right.
praying for your Jets in
Got it.
this offseason with
Thank
Woody
you.
and
Thank you.
everything.
Go
Yeah.
Thank
Tigers.
you.
All right. Go
Let's
Oh,
go.
Tigers.
Go
yeah.
Tigers.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Have a
Thank you
good
guys
Bye-bye.
so
one.
much.
Bye.
Great day.
Oh.
Love you, Michael.